2 driver injuries top the list of log truck driver injuries. If you get injured doing this, all your friends, but especially you, will wonder how you could have been so stupid. This driver is doing it correctly. Always face the cab when entering or leaving. Keep a 3-point connection with the steps or railing, 2 hands and 1 foot or 2 feet in 1 hand. Place anything you're carrying on the floor of the cab before you start to climb. Don't try to juggle objects in your hand while climbing or exiting. Why are we making such a big thing out of something so simple? Because you can get permanently injured and unable to work if you land the wrong way. Unable to work can mean for the rest of your life. It's just not worth the risk. The other activity that causes a lot of injuries is throwing the wrappers. Experts from L&I's Sharp division met with the drivers of Weiss Logging on a Saturday to discuss ways to improve the throwing of the wrappers. Note the importance of wearing a hard hat. The cable can hit the driver's head while throwing.
No, I did enlarge it.
Before you throw, you want to kind of survey the load and make sure there's not something up there that could easily come down on you, you know.
Yeah, well, here it's gravel, easy to walk, throw, but when we're up in the woods, we're not in gravel, we're in mud, different terrain.
Sure.
Limbs, bark. So before you throw your wrapper, you want to clear the limbs, bark, whatever, because when you go to throw, it could hang up on it.
Right, yeah, and as we've seen.
And if you're in your motion and you hang up on something, that, well, it actually hurts.
Yeah, yeah, because
the branch might whip you in the face, or a lot of things happen.
Sure, yeah, okay. And that's a valid point, because we saw some of the various techniques of some of the other drivers that was making the throws, and that loose end of the wrapper is really kind of whip around there, and it can catch any of those kind of things you're talking about, you know, the limb, the stump, whatever that's in the area that's in the way.
And footing, like he said, is a big thing, because you're never on very level ground. But if there is a piece of bark that's turned over the slippery side up, you might want to kick it out of your way for it or something, because if you step on that as you're into motion.
Sure, okay. It's kind of like
Or a big rock.
Yeah, yeah. Prepping your playing field, so to speak, and make sure that you got a good level playing field to work from, and going from there. And you had another issue here.
Another thing I thought about that doesn't come up a lot, but occasionally when we're mostly in residential area, you want to look for overhead wires. When you're throwing that wrapper over, if there happens to be fairly low wires, you could wrap it right around it, and that's not a good thing.
How did you learn to throw wrappers from the get-go? You know, and what hazards did they talk about? How did they instruct you?
One thing I know, like, you throw all 3 wrappers over, or 4, whatever you necessarily need on your load, and you'll come through and you'll hook the binders all up, but you won't necessarily secure it until you have all 3 of them hooked up, and then you'll go down the line and secure them, because a lot of times you could kick a log loose by doing one on one end.
Yeah,
you know.
sure, yeah.
So if you got them all hooked, at least, if something does come loose, there it is. Someone
Yeah,
catch
yeah,
it.
yeah. Other than the wrapper throwing, where you're going to be working, you know, that there's going to be that motion that's going to go above head, is if you can keep your work height at basically shoulder height, or you know, right in that sweet zone in there, with shoulder height and right in this area in here, you're going to be better off. Because if you start working, you know, with how to get your hands above head and pulling down, you're going to be into a lot more of the shoulder issues and those kind of things here. So
What I do is when I hook it up like this,
right,
then I go like this, and if it's coming out square,
okay,
to me that's tight enough.
okay. That's your
That's my method.
That's your method, yeah, okay. That's what I understand.
And then I use the cheater pipe.
Right.
Because if you get it much tighter than that, you're swinging on it trying to bind her down.
Yeah, you really are.
So if this was up here and your whole hand come down to say there, that's illegal.
Okay.
Your hand cannot go either past the top part or the bottom part. One of those two has to touch the load,
Okay.
or it's an insecure load.
Okay.